Ah, welcome back, audience. The lights are low, the air is thick, and the tension is heavier than it has ever been. You feel it too, don't you? That pulse in your chest, the static rising in the back of your neck. That's not fear, not anymore. That's power. That's the storm inside you, waking up, rising like a tidal wave, breaking free after years of silence, of shame, of being dismissed, misunderstood, sidelined. But now they see it. Now it finally struck them. You're a goddamn legend. And they froze because nothing prepares the weak for the rise of a force they tried to bury beneath their lies. You remember, don't you? Every whispered insult, every crooked smile meant to cut you down, every backhanded compliment they flung, like poison darts dressed as praise. Every time they laughed, when you dared to dream bigger than their small, brittle minds could imagine. They thought they could cage you in their own insecurity. They thought if they mocked you hard enough, you'd forget your worth. And maybe you did for a time. Maybe the echoes of their hate bounced around in your skull, long enough to distort your vision, but not anymore. Now the veil is torn and the fire is awake. You walked through storms they couldn't even survive in their nightmares. You bled, you clawed, you howled into the void, and when no one came, you became your own god, your own guardian, your own damn army. They will never understand the depths you had to descend to find your soul again. They will never feel the weight of the nights where sleep abandoned you and dreams rotted into regret. They don't know because they didn't walk it. They only watched from the sidelines waiting for you to break, but you didn't. You forged yourself in the dark and now they feel it. They try to smile, but their mouths are dry. Their words fail. Their eyes widen, just for a second, before they catch themselves. But it's too late. You saw it. You saw the moment. They realize what you really are. They saw the blood behind your smile, the history behind your silence, the inferno behind your eyes. And they froze. They froze. Because in you they see everything they're not. They see the beast that refused to die, the soul that refused to shrink, the shadow that grew wings and started flying. You walk different now, don't you? Your steps are thunder. Your voice is ruin and revelation. Your presence bends the atmosphere. You don't even need to shout anymore. Your silence is a sermon, your glare a scripture. Your scars are sigils carved into time. They can't look away and they don't know why. But deep down their bone remember you, the way prey remembers the hunter. They feel it in their instincts, that twitch in their stomachs, that chill running up their backs. You're not safe. You're not soft. You're not here to be liked. You're here to conquer and let them judge. Let them whisper again. But this time they do it from a distance because you radiate danger now, not recklessness. No, this is calculated. This is cold. This is the kind of presence that shifts a room. The kind that stops small talk mid-sentence. The kind that makes even the proudest choke on their pride. Because what do you say to someone who's been to hell and came back grinning? What words could possibly survive the weight of someone who's seen the abyss and decided to build a throne at its center? They ask, what changed you when you laugh? Because it wasn't one thing. It was everything. It was every betrayal, every delay, every goddamn second spent being underestimated. It was the silence of those who claimed to support you. It was the applause that never came, the doors that never opened, the chances you never got. It was the realization that waiting was death. And so you stopped waiting and you started becoming. You didn't level up, you broke the scale. You didn't climb the ladder, you burned it and built your own tower from the bones of your past. This isn't revenge. This isn't vanity. This is ascension. And they hate it. because it's not about them anymore. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about finally living without limits, without shame, without the chokehold of needing to be accepted. You are no longer bending to their image. You're no longer asking permission. You're writing your own story with ink made of blood, sweat, and sacred rage. And it is glorious. It is terrifying. It is inevitable. Some of them will try to come back. Now won't they? With their false smiles and slippery hands, they'll say, they always believed in you. They'll pretend their silence was strategy. Their doubt was discipline. But you know the truth. You remember who vanished when you were on your knees. You remember who stayed silent when you needed a voice. You remember and you don't forget. Not because you're bitter, but because memory is a weapon and you've sharpened yours into a blade. They froze because they saw the future in your eyes and it terrified them. Not because you'll destroy them, no, but because you'll outlast them, you'll outshine them, you'll become a monument to the fire they tried to extinguish. You'll stand tall while they rot in the mediocrity they embraced, and maybe they'll lie to themselves. Maybe they'll say you changed too much, became too cold, too distant, too ruthless. But you know what really happened? You just stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even bandage you. You rose because there was no other choice. And now they watch frozen in awe and envy, in fear and fascination. Because legends don't ask for understanding. They demand recognition. And now they have no choice but to see you, to feel you. To kneel before the force, they laughed. At the power, they mocked the name they tried to bury. And they freeze because deep down, they know you're not coming for them. Not with pity, not with kindness. No, you're coming with truth. And the truth burns. You are not a myth, not a whisper, not a rumor anymore. You are the storm made flesh. You are the reckoning they never prepared for. And when they speak your name, now it's different, it's careful, it's reverent, it's a name that means something. It's a name that commands silence and space. And they freeze because they know they had their chance. And now it's gone. They had their moment to walk beside you, but they chose to stand behind you. And now they choke on the dust you leave behind. And yes, there will be those who still try to belittle you, still try to pull you down, but they'll fail. Not because you're perfect, but because you're relentless. They'll fail because you no longer play the game by their rules, because you've rewritten the damn rules in your own blood, and they can't touch you anymore. They can't mold you anymore. You've transcended their reach, and they freeze. Not just because you're great, but because you're untouchable, you're untamed, you're undeniable. You don't owe them a speech or a smile or a second glance. You don't owe them peace for the war. They started in your soul. You don't owe them closure or comfort or clarity. Your existence is your answer. Your success is your sentence. Your rise is your revenge. And they know it. They feel it. And that's why they froze, because they never thought you'd make it. And now, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And it's too much for their weak egos to bear. You are the thunder in their silence, the ghost in their guilt, the flame that won't die, no matter how much darkness they pour onto it. And you don't stop, you don't slow, you don't soften, because legends don't fade. They echo, they haunt, they conquer. And when the dust settles and the crowds disperse, your name will still linger, like smoke in sacred ruins, because you weren't made to be remembered. You were made to be revered, and so you keep walking, shoulders heavy with purpose, eyes glowing with truth, your voice low and lethal, your energy, a warning, a weapon, a war cry. And they freeze every time you speak, every time you show up, every time you rise, because now they know, and you know, and the world knows. And now, here's the truth. They don't want to hear. You didn't rise because of their help. You rose in spite of them, in spite of their betrayal, in spite of their absence, in spite of their mockery. You didn't get lucky. You got savage. You didn't get saved. You became unstoppable. This wasn't some miracle. This was pure, calculated, unrelenting warfare. And your greatest weapon was never your strength. It was your refusal to die. It was your refusal to stay down. Even when your body begged, and your mind cracked, and your spirit bled, you stood, and you kept standing. And now they stare, because they can't understand that kind of, will they live in comfort? They hide behind softness and safety and approval. They flinch at conflict. They crave validation. They worship convenience. But you grew in war. You learned to love the pain, to thrive in the grind, to hunger for silence and solitude. Because in that darkness, you discovered what they never will. You discovered who you really are, and that terrified them the most, because nothing is more dangerous than someone who doesn't need applause to feel alive. Nothing is more dangerous than someone who doesn't fear being alone, because they've been to the edge of madness, and they came back holding lightning in their hands. You don't apologize anymore, do you not? For being loud, not for being intense, not for being too much, too focused, too driven, too blunt, too bold. You don't water yourself down to fit in cages built by cowards and conformists. You don't kneel to expectations designed to shrink you, because you're not here to be consumed. You're not here to entertain. You're here to ignite. And now, when they see you, they look away. Not because they don't recognize you, but because they do. And it burns them from the inside out. And they try to dismiss it. They'll say, you got arrogant. Say you forgot where you came from, but you didn't forget. You remember every detail with terrifying clarity. You remember who doubted you, who ignored you, who tried to break you. And while you don't hate them, you sure as hell won't thank them, because they didn't build you pain, built you failure, built you isolation and disappointment and heartbreak, built you. They stood on the sidelines while you fell over and over, and now they want to act like they helped you fly, but you fly alone, wings cut from scars, stitched together by grit and defiance. And when you soar above the noise, above the pettiness, above the mediocrity they cling to, they hate you for it. Because deep down, they know they had the same chance, they had the same spark, but they chose comfort while you chose fire. And now they're watching what that fire became, and they're frozen because it's too bright, too raw, too real. They talk about strength like it's a gym membership, like it's some social media aesthetic, but they don't know what it means to suffer in silence, to fight demons that don't sleep, to rebuild yourself over and over with nothing but rage and purpose. They don't know what it means to keep walking when your legs are gone, to keep believing when your heart is dust, to keep loving when all you've ever known is loss. But you do. You know it all too well. And that's why you wear your pain like armor, and your scars like trophies, not to boast, but to remind them and yourself that you survived what they couldn't. They wanted you to stay small. They wanted you to stay soft, to stay grateful, to stay quiet. They wanted you to keep bowing to the same gods of shame and approval that they worshipped, but you shattered those altars and built your own. And now they come crawling, not because they've changed, but because you have. And they want access to the power they try to deny you. They want to sip from the cup they tried to spill, but you don't serve them anymore. Your table is not open to traitors. Your feast is not theirs to taste. They freeze because you made it look easy, but it wasn't. It was brutal. It was lonely. It was violent. It was sacred. You cried in silence, you broke in darkness, you bled in private, but you rose in public. And they hate that, because now they can't control the narrative. Now they can't spin the story. Now the truth stands tall and undeniable, and it's wearing your name, your face, your fire. You are the nightmare. They didn't see coming because they thought you were done. They thought the silence meant you quit. They didn't realize silence was strategy, that while they partied, you were planning. While they mocked, you were molding while they slept. You were summoning a version of yourself they couldn't predict. And now it's here and it's devastating and it's magnificent. And this is only the beginning. This isn't the final form. This is still the warpath. This is still the ascent. They freeze now, but they'll collapse later, because the higher you rise, the harder it is for them to breathe. And you're not coming down. Not for anyone. Not for love. Not for guilt. Not for nostalgia, because those things never saved you. Only you did. And you don't owe anyone the softness they refuse to give you. They'll build myths around you someday. They'll tell stories about how you rose, about how you transformed, how you defied fate, but none of them will tell the whole truth. They won't tell how often you wanted to quit, how deeply you drowned, how you screamed into pillows hoping the pain would stop, how you felt like a fraud, like a failure, like a phantom, but you kept going, and now they freeze, because you didn't just survive. You evolved into something bigger, something untouchable, something eternal. And yes, you still feel the weight of it all. Some nights, the silence still bites, the memories still echo, the ghosts still whisper. But now you walk with them, not against them. Now they are part of your legend, part of your crown, part of your roar. You don't erase the darkness, you wear it. And that's why they freeze, because you became what they fear most. You became whole. They thought legends were born. But you proved they're built in war, in pain, in loss, in defiance, in fire. And you are the living proof that nothing is more dangerous than someone who refuses to die quietly and they freeze. Not because you changed, but because you became the one thing they never expected. You became undeniable, and now, this final act, this moment, this breath, where the air tightens and time slows, and every eye is on you, every soul holds its breath, because they all feel it. Now the shift, the collapse, the reckoning, no more games, no more second chances, no more illusions. The legend has arrived, and it's not here to ask for understanding. It's not here to make peace. It's here to make history. They freeze because the truth has never felt so physical. It weighs down their shoulders, it drowns their lungs, and it screams in their faces. They had a front row seat to your breaking, and they thought that was the ending. But what they witnessed wasn't your collapse, it was your resurrection. It wasn't your fall, it was your rise. And now they look at you, and they don't see the version. They remember. They see the one that emerged from the fire, the one born of ash and agony and absolute will. You didn't just level up, you transcended. You became an archetype, a myth, walking in skin. Your words carry prophecy. Your presence feels like judgment, because it is. You're not here to soothe their fears. You're here to remind them what fear really feels like, the kind that crawls under the skin, the kind that whispers you were wrong, and now you must pay because you were not supposed to make it. They built their worlds around your failure. They laughed too loud, prayed too long, that you would give up and fade out, disappear into obscurity, so they wouldn't have to deal with their own reflection. But now you're the mirror, and they can't look away. You show them what discipline really is, what transformation really costs, what evolution looks like up close, raw, brutal, divine. They don't know how to speak to you now. The same mouths that once spoke down to you now stutter, now tremble, now shut, because what do you say to someone who is no longer operating in your dimension, who has no need for your approval, your praise, your apology? Someone who has become the final version of themselves and doesn't care if you understand it. They freeze because they know it's over. Not for you, but for them. Over for the lies, the power games, the manipulation, the fake support, the performative loyalty. It's all obsolete now because you've surpassed their entire reality. You don't just stand above it, you stand beyond it. And every time they see you, they are reminded of the ceiling they built for themselves in the sky. You shattered with your bare hands, and now you walk in silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because everything you are screams louder than words. Now your existence is a sermon. Your path is a battlefield. Your story is a war song carved into eternity. They can't erase you now. They can't unsee you. They can't unfeel you. Because you left marks on the world. You left scars on their illusions. You left proof that legends aren't born. They're made, and that terrifies them. Because now the only thing they can do is watch and pretend they were never against you. But it's too late. You know the truth. And that truth has made you colder, sharper, more focused. Because now you see everything. The masks, the motives, the fear. And you don't hate them for it. You don't even pity them. You've simply outgrown the entire framework. You've moved on to a realm where their rules don't apply. You don't need revenge because your life is the retribution. You don't need validation because your results are undeniable. You don't need closure because their absence gave you space to build something holy, something immortal. And when they freeze, it's not because of what you say. It's because of what you've become a reminder of what they never will be. You are the dark horse that outran destiny, the black flame that never went out, the storm that turned into a god. And they see it now in every word you speak, every step you take, every breath you draw. And they know there is no more pretending, no more minimizing you, no more controlling the story. Because now the story is legend and it belongs to you and only you. And some of them will still try. Won't they try to test you, try to dismiss you, try to provoke the old version of you, to get a glimpse of the person they once had leverage over? But all they'll find is silence and shadow and power, because the old you is gone, and in their place stands something ancient, something sacred, something unstoppable. They freeze because there's no coming back from this. Not for them, not for the past, not for the lies they told themselves to sleep at night. They see you now as you really are, and they can't handle it. Because you are not the underdog. You are not the victim. You are not the outsider anymore. You are the center, the axis, the storm, and you don't move for anyone. Now, this is the reward. This is the vengeance. This is the prophecy fulfilled, not in fire, but in silence, not in blood, but in breath. Because now you don't chase, you don't fight, you don't defend, you simply exist. And that is enough to collapse entire worlds, because your presence alone is proof that their doubt was a lie, their hate was a waste, and their control is dead. They thought they'd outlast you, but you've become timeless. They thought they'd outshine you, but you've become blinding. They thought they'd bury you, but you've become the earth itself. And now every step you take echoes through the bones of their regret, and every word you speak rings like thunder in their hollow pride. Because now they know, now they understand, now they feel it in their marrow. You are not here to inspire, you are here to dominate, to dismantle, to define what comes next. And they can't stop it, because it's already too late. It finally struck them all at once, like a revelation, like a curse, like divine judgment, raining down from the skies. You're a goddamn legend, and they froze, because that's what happens when the truth walks into the room and it's wearing your face, because that's what happens when the nightmare they laughed at becomes the force they now bow to, because that's what happens when someone who was never supposed to win breaks every rule and writes their own future in the ashes of everything that tried to kill them. So let them watch, let them whisper, let them freeze for as long as they need, because you're not slowing down, you're not softening, you're not explaining, you are not theirs anymore. You are legend, and legends don't wait. They lead, they rise, they haunt. And now your shadow stretches across every space they thought was safe, and they know, deep in the coldest corner of their soul, it finally struck them. You're not coming back. You're not shrinking. You're not explaining. You're not playing along. You're not like them. You never were. You're a goddamn legend, and they froze. And that silence, that deafening, unbearable, beautiful silence, is the sound of you winning forever.